Hey Mama, welcome to the Mrs. Mummy PhD podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Gibbs, wife, mama of 3, and doctor of the PhD kind. On this podcast, we talk honestly about high achievement, burnout, and what it looks like to lead well across home, work, and self. So if you're an ambitious mother scholar who's quietly exhausted by the pace you've been keeping and starting to realize that survival isn't the same as success, this podcast is for you. Mrs. Mummy PhD began during my own PhD journey as a wife and mama. Today, as a postdoctoral scholarly mama working across 2 leadership roles, this work has evolved. It's no longer just about finishing the PhD well, it's about creating sustainable ways of learning, leading, and living at any stage of your journey without losing yourself in the process. If you are ready to move from survival to restoration, you're in the right place. Let's begin. These are our journeys of becoming. Hey Mama, welcome back to the Mrs. Mummy PhD podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you to the podcast. I've recently returned from a 6-month break. If you haven't listened to that return episode, please do go and tune in. It's episode 124, I think. This is 125. So please do go and tune into that episode if you haven't listened to it already. But if this is your first time here, please make yourself comfortable. Lovely to have you. I don't take your time for granted one bit. And I'm so grateful that you've chosen to spend this time with me today. So in today's episode, I want to talk about something that probably not many high achieving mamas will admit, not happily at least, but I think it's really important to name this because it affects so many of us without us even realizing it. And that is that success without sustainability is not success. It is survival. I've said this time and time again, but I've said it most recently in the return episode 124 because I have experienced that quiet burnout. I've been there thinking that this was success, but actually it was just survival. And so if you're listening to this and you're thinking, gosh, why does this hit so hard for me? Why is this landing for me? It's probably because you've been living this too. You're doing the work, you've achieved or you are pursuing the titles and the accolades, you're holding down the roles, you're keeping things moving. So from the outside, it looks like you are thriving. It looks like you are, exceedingly successful, right? But from the inside, you're tired, you are overstretched, you are overextended, you're quietly burning out. And so for me, what that looked like was I had achieved a few things. Believe me, I'm not trying to say that I'm the most successful person because I am definitely not that. But the things that I did manage to achieve, the people that have observed that have been, seeing the quote unquote successful things. And it looked great from the outside, PhD completed, leadership roles, juggling deadlines, all the things along with home life. And it looks great, right? But on the inside, I was quietly burning out. And like I said in the last episode, it was a season where I lost sight of the vision. I lost sight of the routines, the strategies, the systems, the things that helped me to get through what was a really difficult 8 years of my life, doing my PhD, beginning that journey with 1 son and then having 2 others in the middle of my PhD and coming back to that, feeling like it was such a hard slog and still managing to come back and finish it well. And I think the systems that helped me to do that kind of lost sight of them, I must say, in the last 12 months. And so I was quietly burning out, and inside it felt like I was quietly losing myself. I was not the person that I looked in the mirror a few months or years before. And so, we are taught that success looks like output. We're taught that it looks like milestones, pushing through, achieving and proving that we can do it all, especially as mothers, especially as scholars, especially as women who care very deeply about the work we do and the things that we do and wanting to do them well. But no one really teaches us how to do that and also stay well, right? No one teaches us that. I have lived both sides of this. I have lived the season of the accolades and the achievement. I've lived that. And I think I did a pretty good job with that. But I've also lived the season of quiet burnout, which I never thought would happen to me. But I definitely lived that season too. And it wasn't the kind that was dramatic. And I think this is the important point, the quiet burnout, the bit that you don't see, the type of burnout that just creeps upon you gradually and subtly, but slowly drains the joy out of the things that you used to love. And the kind that, you don't collapse, you don't, have a complete meltdown. You just cope. You cope and you call that success. And for me, I think that I reached a point where I realized that something had to change because I'd lost, so much of my motivation to even show up here on this podcast because I felt just completely overstretched and overextended. And it made me realize that it isn't so much about what we're doing, but it's how we're doing what we're doing. What is our relationship with the things that we are actually doing? And how can we improve that by building habits, by adopting the right mindsets and the right strategies to allow us to make space for the things that matter, to do the things that mean something to us. And I remember telling myself at that point that, Michelle, if you don't change something, you will fall into the trap where you will completely lose yourself. You will get into the cycle that you've managed to avoid for so many years. You'll get sucked into that vortex of pushing, the emotional shifts, the physical tolls, the lack of even realization of what's happening. So you begin to lose yourself. You begin to lose the ability to lead yourself well. And if you don't nip that in the bud, you will end up into a state of complete burnout. And so for me, I realized that coping wasn't thriving, and survival is not the same thing as success, is not the same thing as living well. And sustainability is actually what makes success ethical. It's what makes it honest and true. It's what makes it possible to keep going without losing yourself. Because sustainable success says, I want impact, but not at the cost of my health and well-being. I want to lead, and I want to lead well, but not by abandoning myself. It says, I want to grow, but not by living in this permanent sense of urgency and hurry, right? And so I think I remember saying to somebody a few years ago, or a few months ago maybe, that, I call myself the queen of the unhurried life. And that's with a lot of intention because, I pride myself in being somebody who doesn't get caught up in other people's urgencies, that is able to pace myself based on what my capacity is at that moment. And I think when you lose that, you then begin to get into this permanent state of everything needs to be done tomorrow and everything needs to be done by me. And so you stop delegating, you try to do everything yourself, you're constantly rushed, you're constantly hurried, and that energy transpires to the people around you. That energy burns routines. That energy eliminates boundaries. That energy shifts mindsets. That energy even attacks your own identity because suddenly you don't even know who you are anymore. And so, I had to recognize that there were things that needed to change. I needed to pause certain things. I needed to create space that would allow me to reconnect with what was important, what mattered to me, and give myself the opportunity to redefine success again. And so I started to pour more energy and time into reflection. I had to stop being a people pleaser and actually ask myself, what is it that I do want? I had to say no to some stuff. I had to say no to some opportunities. And, it probably didn't make sense to some people. It probably still doesn't make sense to some people, but it makes sense to me. And I think that's what matters. And I think when you get into a state of overextension, you forget about capacity, you forget about what you actually want, and you become a people pleaser almost. And you are living your life with the burden of just making everybody else happy except yourself. And so for me, sustainable success asks different questions. It doesn't ask, what can I handle? It asks, what can I carry and stay whole? It doesn't ask how much more can I do? How do I do more? How do I fit more into my already packed schedule? It asks, but how can I do what matters? How can I put energy into the things that really matter to me without burning myself out? So for me, this is where that purposeful self-leadership comes in. Not hustle, not discipline for discipline's sake, even though self-discipline is very important. It's actually a part of self-leadership. But it's not doing that for the sake of itself, but it's learning to lead your time. It's learning to lead your energy. It's learning to lead your expectations, because how you lead yourself is how you teach your children what life should look like. And I'm not saying that to, make you feel guilty. I'm saying that because it's true. How we lead ourselves as scholarly mamas will translate to the messages that we are sending our children, in terms of what good self-leadership looks like. And so for me, in terms of being a mom, I recognize that I was losing focus. I was losing focus of what was really important to me. And the children noticed it. They noticed that I was a lot more disconnected. And that was really an eye-opener, right? That was really an eye-opener, because I then had to pause and say, what am I teaching them? What am I modeling for them? Am I showing them what it means to choose rest? Am I showing them how they can say no to things? Am I modeling boundaries for them? Right? So this isn't about abandoning ambition, because we do want to show our children that they can achieve great things, that they can do hard things, that they can be ambitious. So you don't need to abandon your ambition. You don't need to give up your work. You don't need to shrink and play small. You just need a way of succeeding that doesn't require self-sacrifice. So here's something that I want you to reflect on today. What does your current version of success cost you? Is it costing you your sleep? Is it costing you your peace? Is it costing you your presence? Is it costing you your body, your health, your well-being, your joy? And if that cost continues to rise, because as I said in the last episode, goals continue to get bigger, dreams continue to grow. You want to achieve the next thing. So if the cost continues to rise, is it really success? You see, this podcast is all about learning to choose differently, not dramatically, not perfectly, but intentionally, to build lives that include work, to build lives that include home, to build lives that include you. And if this is resonating with you, if you are realizing that you've been surviving instead of actually living, you don't need a total reset. You just need space to think. You just need space to just be. And that's why I created the Seed Call. This is a quiet, grounding conversation to help you notice where you are and what you need next. There's no pressure. There's no fixing. There's just clarity and space. We all deserve a success story that we are actually a part of, that we are there to enjoy the fruits of our labor, right? So as you reflect on all the things we've touched on in this episode, I want you to think about leading yourself gently, because as high achieving mamas, success shouldn't cost us ourselves. That's all I've got for today. I'll see you in the next episode. But until then, keep well, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Thank you so much for listening. If something in today's conversation resonated with you, I want you to know this. You don't need to have it all figured out before you take your next step. This work is all about learning to lead yourself first in ways that honor your capacity, your work, your home, and yourself without burning out in the process. If you'd like to continue the conversation beyond the podcast, you're warmly invited to join Scholarly Mamas The Letter, a quiet monthly newsletter for mother scholars who value purpose beyond titles, presence at home, and peace within. You can sign up at scholarlymamas.com. And if you're feeling stuck, stretched, or just not where you want to be, you can book a free 30-minute call to help you gain clarity and explore what support might look like in this season to get from where you are to where you want to be. You can also connect with me on social media at Mrs. Mummy PhD, where I share reflections on ambition, motherhood, sustainable self-leadership, all the things, for high-achieving mamas like yourself. This, mama, is the quiet work of scholarly motherhood, and these are our journeys of becoming.